CBS News legal analyst Jack Ford is here. Jack, good morning.
Charlie, good morning.
What happened here?
It's sort of difficult to get a handle on it here because, first of all, you have to realize it's not terribly unusual. The investigating police officer didn't show up for the hearing. That can happen. He apparently called and said a medical emergency and it was checked out, and that's fine. Sometimes that happens. Also, it's not terribly unusual that the victims apparently weren't given notice so that they were not there. Sometimes that stuff falls through the cracks. What was unusual, based upon courts that I've been in, was for in a case such as this, first time it's listing, with all those things taking place, for a judge to say, we're going to dismiss the charges. You know, in the courts that I've been in a situation such as this, the judge would say to the defendant and his attorney, look, I'm sorry you're here. For whatever reason, investigating officer is sick. It happens. We didn't send notices. Apparently, somebody dropped the ball on these other people. So what we're going to do, we're going to reschedule it. Everybody come on in and let's see what happens. Now, if you go down the road and still people don't show up after they've been given notices, then courts will sometimes say, okay, I'm just going to dismiss it. Nobody's going to be here. But that's what's curious about this, is that it gets dismissed when the investigating officer apparently was ill and the report was the other people hadn't been given notice.
But it has to be hard for the families to see the police officers laughing at court. Who is most responsible for the charges being dropped?
Right now, it was a combination of things, but the judge made the decision, I will dismiss these charges. But as I said before, it was this unusual sort of amalgam of circumstances that the investigator doesn't show up, but because he said we were ill. So
but the other question,
looking at all those, and they sound unusual. The other
question is, why didn't one of the other officers?
Well, that's not necessarily a problem. It looks bad. You know, you have 7 officers in there. Is that anything wrong with that? No. I mean, people can bring supporters if they want to. But another officer who wasn't part of the investigation can't stand up and say, okay, I'll handle the case. Right. It has to be an officer who
was involved in the process.
Exactly. Right. So, again, so much of this kind of looks and feels awkward and uncomfortable. Yeah. Some of it can be explained, but it is unusual to have these charges dismissed out of hand,
so
given the circumstances
we've
heard of it.
In this case?
Well, there are some possibilities. A lot of jurisdictions have either a court or an administrator oversees something like this, and they could step in and say, all right, this shouldn't have happened this way. Yeah. Let's reinstate these, and let's go back, let's get everybody notice, let everybody show up in the courtroom and get this resolved. If it turns out, as I said, that everybody still doesn't show up, then maybe something can happen afterwards. But I wouldn't be surprised to see some overseeing administration agency step in and say, let's do this so it doesn't seem inappropriate in some fashion.
Thank you, Jack Ford.